I'll tell you a quick story. When I was a grad student, I lived on about $10,000 a year. So that's room, board, and everything. I could not afford the big machines back then. I wish something like the bernettes that we have today were available. My first sewing machine was a garage sale plunker, $15, and it sewed like that too. I could not do a buttonhole if your life depended on it. So if I had access to something like a bernette, I would able to, right from the first day, get something that allowed my skills to grow. When you learn to sew, your machine is very important. You may not need the biggest machine, but you need a machine that's reliable, that sews well, that does its things well, so that you can do the techniques and then learn more and venture more. And that is what bernette will do. So today I'll alternate between my face and the slides. We'll talk about the whole line. I'll go briefly through the whole line to give you the options. But the key word, and let's go to the first slide, the key word is value. Bernette is our value line. It is made for Bernina. Now, Merriam-Webster, among the many definitions for the noun value, has the following. It's the relative worth of something. And it's also the utility something brings you and the importance it has for you. So as I mentioned already, having a reliable machine that does what you need, that allows you to do your projects, that is of utmost importance. It has a lot of utility, whether it's for home deck, whether it's fixing stuff around the house, mending, or making garments. Like I started making shirts when I started sewing. And the relative worth is much higher than the price paid oftentimes when the machine does what you need. Now in bernette terms, they are affordable. They have very competitive features, some of them at the top of their class, and while still being affordable. And they give you essential features that will benefit your sewing, overlocking, and embroidery. So I'm going to show you the first series. Let's go back to the face cam. Well, first segment we have is basic mechanical machines. Those will be your most affordable. They're made for Bernina, but the quality control is in conjunction with Bernina is excellent. So typical mechanical machines, you're going to see knobs, you select a stitch, you have either stitch length, sometimes width control, and you just sew. Very, very basic. Let me show you the details. Let's go back to the slides. So we have 3 models in that series. The first one is the most affordable of all. It's called the Sew and Go 1. That machine is very simple, 10 stitches, and it has a built-in needle threader. All bernettes have a built-in needle threader. And then it has a regular 4-step buttonhole where you turn a knob. So you select a stitch, you can choose the stitch length, but the stitch width is preset. Very simple machine. If you need a basic stitcher, mostly for straight stitching, for instance, and you don't want to break the bank, that is your ticket. Now, when you move up from there, the B33 has 15 stitches, and it has in red the stretch stitches. Those are reinforced like a triple stitch. So that machine, if you want to venture into home deck and do work with upholstery fabrics, do tote bags, it has a little more. It is a reliable, robust stitcher, very simple. Select a stitch, choose a stitch length, and go ahead and sew. So very basic. Now, the top of that mini series, if you want, is the B35. That one has 23 stitches. It has stretch stitches as well. And you notice I put some items in red here on the screen. Those are the features that are, to me, critical in my sewing that are introduced by that model and not available on the models before. And this has a stitch width control. You notice there's one more knob. The stitch width control is very useful for hems, for instance. If you're doing a blind hem, you can tweak the bite into the zigzag to make just the right hem and not having to fudge the fabric. So that is a point of finesse that is not available on the 33 and Sew and Go, but that makes that machine more versatile for more projects. It is also the machine that introduces the 1-step buttonhole. You pull down a little lever, you put your button on a little slider foot, and the machine will make the buttonhole in one shot automatically to the size of the button. If you do garments, tote bags, anything that requires buttons, that is really a better value. Now, let me introduce a concept, and I learned this with my first machine. When you buy even a basic machine, make sure there is room to grow. With a decent machine, a good machine, you will, as I said, venture more, try more stuff, do more projects, and that machine needs to offer some room to grow, to stay with you, so that your skills can grow further, and I would say probably even faster. So having, for instance, that one-step buttonhole and these extra features on the 35 was a definite plus. So make sure you look at that if you're looking for just a basic mechanical. Talking of mechanical machines, the next segment up is the B5 segment. We have two machines. This is the B5 Academy. The key word here is performance. Mechanical, simple, performance. So let's go back to the slides. I will give you the details on those. There are two models here. The B5 Crafter is, this basically has the following features: 30 stitches. And these two machines have 3 sets. The regular stitches, the red stitches, like the triple stitches, like the stretch that we had before. But now they introduce a third set where the machine moves forward for a stitch and then stays in place for the next stitch. So you can do things like a blanket stitch or even a lycra or a spandex stitch. These type of stitches are not common on a mechanical sewing machine. Now, because these are drop-in bobbins, they offer a slightly wider stitch width than the previous models. So you're now at 6 millimeters wide, which can be useful for decorative blanket stitches, even if you want, but also for construction purposes. The key to the B5 series here is the heavy-duty motor. It is much stronger than your average machine in this class, and it can go all the way up to 1100 stitches a minute. Most machines in this class will go between 700 and 900 stitches a minute. 1100 stitches a minute is very, very fast if you want to go there. And so if you're doing straight stitch on curtains, on boat equipment, sails, anything like that, you want a fast machine, this is your ticket. It has a knob for needle position. You can move your stitches, even a zigzag, you can move it to the right, to the left, or keep it in the center. If you do decorative stuff like applique, you can actually move the needle position, make it easier to follow your edges. That is very rare in this category of machine. And then you can easily change the press foot pressure, and that is made possible by just a little knob that has the markings on it so that you know exactly where it's at. So it's a well-rounded machine. Now, if you move up to the B5 Academy, you add the following. You now have 2 speeds, still the heavy-duty motor. You can have a high or low speed that is 1100 stitches a minute or 650. So if you do delicate work and you don't want to run into a corner or paint yourself into a corner, you can actually preemptively slow down that machine. This machine is popular in schools, for instance, because with a lower speed, if you're teaching somebody to sew, this is a more practical speed at the beginning. It comes with a large extension table, as you can see in the picture there. That extension table snaps into the machine very firmly. It is not budging, not sliding. It is part of the machine when you put it on, and the legs are adjustable. So if you're working surface, you happen to be sewing somewhere even outside of your house, you can level the table. It comes with 12 presser feet, which is twice as many as the Crafter, and it even includes a finger guard, so that if you're teaching somebody to sew, you can help protect the novice hands from the needle doing that. So the difference between the two here is that they both share the same core, heavy-duty construction, stainless steel free arm cover, but the Academy has more equipment, and it has also a second speed for a little more money. So if your budget is tight, the Crafter buys you the essentials, but if you can go to the Academy, that gives you more room to grow, more features to go forward. Between now and the end of the year, the B5 Academy is on sale nationwide at a price I've never seen before. When I first saw the price for the B5 Academy when it first launched, I thought it was a typo. I called it an extreme value, where the machines I showed you before were great values, great features for a very solid price. This is an extreme value. It offers a lot for a very affordable price. So if you are looking for a basic machine that will go the mile for you, you owe it to yourself to look at the B5 series. Let's go back to the face cam. Next, we move into convenience. Now, mechanical machines are great, but the needle will stop wherever you use the hand wheel. If that's your daily machine, that's fine. I grew up, My first sewing machines were like this. My hand always went to the hand wheel. Now, when you move to the electronic range, then the machine, two things, always boots up, starts up with a straight stitch ready to sew. Love that. And two, it has the needle being starting up. Eventually, you get the feature to send the needle down so that you don't have to turn the hand wheel. You rarely need to use the hand wheel anymore. This is the B38. It comes with a hard case, which is a very classy feature for that class of machine. And when it comes to electronics, you'll have a touchpad here where you can select your stitches. Everything will be on a screen, and then the features are automated, and also makes other things possible. Let's show you on the slides what the features are going to be. So you have two models here. B37, that has 50 stitches. So the stitch count went up because with an electronic, this is a former computerized machine, you can pack in the stitches. They're just little programs that tell the stepping motors what to do, right? So we're at 50 stitches now. We now have 5 styles of buttonholes. They're automatic, one step, but you have 5 styles because if you do a blouse, a pair of jeans, a tab on a big tote bag, or a heavy coat, you're going to use different styles, potentially 4 different styles of buttonholes right then and there. So having the styles means more versatility in what your machine will do well across all types of sewing. It's a drop-in bobbin, which is nice and convenient, and you can see how much thread is left. That drop-in bobbin is one step up. We're now up to 7 millimeters stitch width. Doesn't look like much, but that 1 more millimeter, when you do decorative stitching, it makes your stitches pop from a further distance. You want to do some crazy quilting with decorative stitches, they will pop. So for decoration purposes especially, you get really, really good value out of that. Now, the needle will stop up, and there's a needle down button so that you can easily navigate your needle position or use it without having to go to the hand wheel. And then there is a slide control on the front that is for the speed regulation. Your best work is rarely done at full speed. I know mine is not. I tend to slow myself down when I sew. That's the one thing I don't do fast. I speak fast, I drive fast, I do most things fast. Ask any of my colleagues. But sewing is something I slow myself down. So you can just slide it down if it's delicate work, so there's no risk of you running off the edge of the fabric or running past your seam mark and so on. And then there's a securing button to help secure stitches along the way. So that's for the 37. Now the 38 adds, on top of everything the 37 does, it has now 394, almost 400 stitches in 6 menus. The little menus are in red, easy to get. You have practical stitches, you have decorative stitches, you have different alphabets with and without what we call the funny letters. French is my native language, so if I want the accented letters, they are in there. So there's a lot of stitches. To make it easy, on the front of the machine at the bottom here, there's a little drawer with a little booklet that has all the stitches organized by menu, so that you can, and let's see if I can pull it out. There you go. And then when you take this out, you can shop for your stitches, and you don't have to, there's even a quick start guide on how to do the basic manipulations, but all your stitches are in there, so you can just punch in the stitch number when you're ready to use them. So that is a great little feature. The 37 also has the little guide in the base of the machine. So you get convenience and sophistication. Let's go back to the slide because there's more. We now have 8 buttonholes. So, if you want to do lightweight projects, heavyweight projects, you will get the perfect style of buttonhole. The only thing left for you to do is to learn what kind of buttonhole is best for the type of project you have, right? There's an automatic thread cutter. First machine in the whole Bernette line that offers a thread cutter. Love that feature. If you're doing something repetitive, you're doing a batch for a project, you can quickly just touch the button. It's right here above the needle. You can touch the button, cut your threads, and while the machine's cutting, you can be picking up the next pair of pieces and then go to town. So it's nice and convenient. Presser foot pressure is adjustable on the 38. It's right up here. And it's marked so that, and there's even a stop point for your normal presser foot pressure. But you know that when you sew knits, all the machines, not all the machines before, the B5s did, but not all the machines in the mechanical world have presser foot pressure adjustment. So you do a knit. Knits are prone to stretching and waving when the pressure from the presser foot, when you sew, stretches them out. By reducing the pressure on the foot, you can abate that. You can basically counter that tendency and have your hem on your knit, on your t-shirt, whatever, come out perfectly flat. If you're doing slinky fabric, something that needs a little more pressure to feed properly, you can increase it if you want to. So that's a nice feature to have. Let's go back to the slide. As I mentioned, this had a hard cover, and it comes also with an extension table that's included with the B38. It is available as an option for the 37, but it's included on the 38. So if you compare the two, if you consider that room to grow, core features, and those extra conveniences that are there every single seam you take with that machine, if you want something that has a convenience of basic computerization without too much complication, the 38 is really the one I would look at first. But if your budget is more sensitive, the 37 has the same DNA. It will sew just as well. You can look at that as well. So that is for the machines that do electronic convenience. Next, we are going to go to the big leagues. So what I have in front of me right now is a bernette 70 series machine, and that is unique. These were launched in 2019. I helped launch them. I taught on these machines at convention. Several sessions, sewing, embroidery on the whole line. I fell in love with the B70 series. Here's the deal. We often get asked, how do you get Bernina features in what we call the value pricing layer of the market, which is where most sewing machines are sold. Well, what Bernina did is they worked with a manufacturer that makes it for Bernina, like all bernettes, and then we took the Bernina user interface and put it inside the machine. So if you look at the layout, you might do a double take that at first glance, you may think this is a Bernina. You have knobs. You have a centrally located touchscreen. You have all your buttons near the needle here. You have your needle position buttons below the knobs. It's all the speed slider is there on the front. It's all similar to a Bernina. You have a freehand system. So let's go to the slides and I'll show you the features that make the B70 series special. So this is now, again, Bernina user interface in an affordable hardware platform. This is, I call it the bridge between Bernette and Bernina. These machines are the sweet spot where before that you could go from basic electronic to a full-fledged Bernina, but there was nothing in between. Now you can get those features still in the affordable price brackets. So the B70 Deco is embroidery only. That machine does not have a feed dog. It will not sew. It's just embroidery. So if you have already a good sewing machine and you want to do embroidery, you don't want to break the bank, you need a companion machine just for the embroidery, the B70 Deco is the perfect vehicle for that. It has Bernina embroidery features, quite sophisticated in that value price market. Especially if it's going to be your first embroidery machine, this machine, the B70 Deco, is very popular in that context. Now, next we have the B77. That is a sewing only machine. And I showed it here on screen with the extension table that is included. There's a freehand system that comes also with that machine. It is sewing only, and the features are very close to a 5 series Bernina. So in terms of what it offers, the hardware being somewhat different, but the features are pretty much at the par with a 5 series Bernina. Then we have a B79, which is a combo. Take everything the 70 does, take everything the 77 does, and put them together. And I'll keep it for dessert, but there's one more feature after that. So let's go back. No, I have another slide actually. So the B70 series, again, top-notch features thanks to the Bernina user interface. So you have 9 inches to the right of the needle. You have that centrally located touchscreen, which is a Bernina feature. That means that you can just glance up and see what's going on your screen before you sew, so there's no surprises. You don't have to turn your head away. Bright LED lighting, very, very bright. Multifunction knobs, which are used for stitch length, stitch width, a whole bunch of features, rotation and embroidery, you name it. So the knobs are very, very useful, just like on a Bernina. You have a drop-in bobbin, which is convenient. It's classic size bobbin. You have an automatic thread cutter. So in embroidery, we'll cut between colors and all that for the machines that do embroidery. And in sewing, you can just invoke it by pressing the cutter. Maximum speed in this class of machine, the B70 is in its, that we might say the mid-market class of machines. 1,000 stitches per minute in sewing is above average. Most machines will stop around 900. And then 850 stitches per minute in embroidery, that's also on the fast side. Of course, you can go slower, but you have the ability to go fast if you need to. You have a foot control with a programmable back kick. So like on Berninas, you have the foot control where when you press on with your heel, you can have the needle go up and down, and then you can optionally have it to secure your seam first before it cuts. You have options available to you on the back kick. It is programmable on the Bernette 70 series, just like on a Bernina. And then the extension table that you saw previously, that is large surface. It snaps onto that machine very, very firmly. It will not slide and come and dislodge. It is a very stable surface. That is for the sewing side. So the 77 and the 79 have that. Now, key features on the sewing side, for the 77 and 79, you have 500 stitches. The stitch width is 7 millimeters and the stitch length is 5 millimeters. So that's on the large size, pretty standard for drop and bobbin machine. Needle positions, you have, just like on a Bernina, needle positions, but on all the stitches. Other brands of machines can move the straight stitch only from left to right, pretty much. On a Bernina, and therefore on the B70 series, you can move your zigzag over, your blanket stitch over, your decorative stitches over, so that if you need to guide the fabric, you can select how you're going to guide the fabric against the feed dog and the foot. You don't have to fudge where the needle is going to be, because you can move that stitch to go and meet your fabric so it's placed where you want it. Not just for top stitching and edge stitching. You want to do a decorative stitch right on a top stitch, you could actually do this just by moving your stitch over. That's something that was basically granted to the B70 series from the Bernina user interface. Let's go back to the slide. You have the Bernette dual feed. So on the sewing 77 and 79, you have a Bernette dual feed built in for better traction, better quilt piecing, better seaming in general. You have the Bernette freehand system that is also on the 77 and 79. It works on the sewing side of the machines. That the freehand system lets you raise and lower the foot just by nudging the bar. And then on the 79, here's your dessert. The 79, I said, right, does everything the 70 does, everything the 77 does, plus it has a stitch designer. That feature is only available on the Bernina 790s and 880s. And that Bernette 79 has a stitch designer. So a good example, you can edit the stitches that are built in the machine. When you do a blanket stitch, you have your spine, and then you have your stitches that go like this horizontal. What if you wanted your blanket stitch, instead of looking like this, you want it to be 45 degrees? You can just 2 or 3 clicks on the screen with the editor, you can edit that stitch and it will now be slanted, and then you just stitch out. So from 500 stitches built in, you can go to hundreds and hundreds of stitches to your taste when you modify them. Let's go back to the slide. So on the embroidery side, that would be the 70 deco and the 79. There's 208 embroidery designs. There are 3 hoops. The small is about 2 by 3 inches. The medium is about 5 by 7, and the large hoop is 6 1/4 by 10 1/4 inches. Those are nice sizes. And the machines automatically recognize what hoop you just put on. And on the 79, when you attach the module automatically drop the feed dog for you. There's a little lever on the bottom of the machine. When you attach the module, feed dog will drop. You don't have to do that. Not only that, when you change the stitch plate for what we call the embroidery or the straight stitch plate, the machine knows what plate is on. So you don't need to tell the machine, it knows automatically. So there's a lot of refinement built into this, where we combine the high-end Bernina features with value hardware, and we found the sweet middle where a lot of people are looking for a machine. If your budget cannot reach all the way up to the Bernina range, this now those features brings them down to an affordable level. Love the B70 series. So next, we're going to go back to the slides. I'm going to show you, we're going to switch gears to overlockers. And the overlockers for Bernette, as of this year, will offer a complete lineup. So we start with the B40 series. And I'm going to give you some math. Let's go back to okay, we're back to face cam. So the B40 series is 3 models. They are, straightforward overlockers, good stitchers. When we say Swiss design, the Bernina works with the manufacturer to make sure that the stitch quality is there, the performance is there, and that this machine will deliver on the promise of bernette, right? It has to deliver its value. So this is basically the 40 series is a conventional threader. You thread by hand. It's color coded. It's very straightforward. And there's 3 models. Let me go to the slides. I will give you the details. So starting with at the top here, that really no sewing room is complete without an overlocker or a serger, as we call them in the US. When I started sewing, I was making my own shirts, and I actually improved the arm size seam, the shoulder seam, where you often see even on tailored shirts that there's a bit of puckering on because the way the seams are done. And I developed a method using my overlocker that prevented that from happening. And I use it for, it's like the microwave to your sewing room, but it's not just for heating up potatoes and water, right? You can actually cook in a microwave. You can actually sew with an overlocker. So the 40 series is straightforward. Let's go back to the slides. I'll give you the details. There are 4 models, and we'll do some math. The math is 4 times 2 equals 8, okay? So the B44 is, they're called the fun locks, is an overlock only. So that's your conventional. So if you want an overlocker and you don't want to break the bank, you say, I'm going to use it, but I don't want to spend thousands on an overlocker. The B40 series is right in range for that. So it's an overlock only. It does the standard 2, 3, 4 threads, stitch formations, 15 different stitches. So it's very, very well appointed for that. It will do all the basic overlocking that you want to do. You might tell from the picture that all the controls are on the outside of the machine. You never need to open up the side of the machine to get in there to change, lower the knife and do that stuff. It's all on the outside, which is very, very convenient. So the machine is easy to operate. You have all your standard features, differential feed, stitch length control, and so on. So very, very well appointed machine. Then there's the B42. B42, number is smaller, fewer stitches, because that is a cover stitch and chain stitch machine. So let's say you have already an overlock that you like. You experience with it, you've had it for a long time, or regardless, you're familiar with it. You don't have to think too much how to use it. It serves your purposes, but you'd like to add cover and chain stitch. That's great for hems, like at the bottom of your knits. It's great hemming canvas. You can do that triple thread, triple needle cover stitch that will finish a raw edge. When you turn the raw edge in, it will finish it right up there, so you don't need to double turn a hem. On curtains, that makes for much flatter hem, much better hang. So let's say you want a cover and chain stitch machine. This will do the 1 needle chain stitch. It will do a 2 needle cover stitch, either narrow one side or the other or wide, and it will do the triple needle. So basically your standard cover stitch formations. That machine, let's go back to the slides. That machine is affordable. So let's say I mentioned you may have an overlock you like already. You may have bought an overlock in the recent past. You say, I don't want to trade it in. I want to just add. This is a sweet ticket. And the stitch quality on this is number 1. It's really, really good. So you can add that functionality to your sewing room without breaking the bank, right? That's the purpose of the 42. It's more basic than the 60 series, but it is performing just as well. And with the options of overlock only and chain stitch, cover stitch only, you can add to your room selectively. Now, what if you want to do the 4 times 2? If you need 1 machine, and your budget is in range for the fun locks, the B48 will be your solution. That is a combo machine. It does overlock and cover and chain. So let's briefly review what the B40 fun lock series will do. It's our most affordable models, right? The stitch quality is tops. They have to deliver to get the name bernette. The Bernina works with the manufacturer closely for that. All controls on the outside. You have your differential feed, your roll hem lever. The roll hem lever is something Bernina introduced on bernette overlockers long time ago. I did not have any gray hair back then, but it's actually, you just flick the little lever towards yourself and you're ready to do a roll hem by just adjusting your tension. So the roll hem is super easy. You have adjustable press-to-foot pressure on the higher models. That will be on the 60 series, so keep that for next. The color-coded threading to make it easier, and the accessories are in the looper cover. That's a feature Bernina has had for a long time. The scrap catcher is there, but you open, and let me do this by tilting because my upside down is not very good. But all the tools are right here on the door, so that when you put them back, all the tools you need to thread and operate the machine are always there when you need them. You don't have to look for them, and you will not lose them. So that is a big feature. So that's for the 40 series. Now, from there, I'm going to show you the last series for today. That is an upgrade on the overlockers. That will be the 60 series. And the 60 series is a step up across the board. You have the same math, 4 times 2 equal 8. So we'll go there. So it's B62, 64, 68, right? And these are the sweetest. They are air threaders, the loopers, which is, for most people, is the trickiest part when you learn to use a serger, because the loopers are inside of the bottom of the machine. They have to be there because the loopers operate underneath the fabric, right? So that can be intimidating when you get a first overlocker. Well, now they thread themselves literally. You just put the thread in there and it comes out of the looper. You are done. So let's go to the slides. I'll show you the details on the B60 series. Now that is stepping up everywhere. So the B64, notice that the numbers parallel the 40 series for that. Overlock only, 2, 3, 4 threads, and this one has 16 stitches, so a little more. But if you look at the photo, you see that there's a freehand system. Ooh, I love that. And it works. You can lift the foot, so when you put the project under the foot, just like on a sewing machine, this operates a little more like a sewing machine now. And then you can just stitch down. So the B62 airlock is a chain stitch and cover stitch machine only, and it does the 2 and 3 needles just like the 42 did, but you're faster to get threaded. You have the freehand system to insert and remove your project, so you get done sooner, even though the machines are fast anyway. And then the B68 is the combo machine. It will do the overlock and cover and chain. That's a whole 31 stitch formations. And then let's take one more look at the pictures. What I did is I showed all 3 machines, but I showed them each with a different configuration if you want. Each machine is capable of those 3 configurations. So on the left, you see that, oh, they have a free arm. So if you want to do cuffs, small circular or tubular items, you can actually do them with a free arm. All 3 machines can do this. Then the B62 I showed with the extension table. It's a nice big table. So if you're doing a big project, curtains, you remember I mentioned that hem, you want to go to town, that will keep your project lined up under the foot because it's a nice supportive surface. And then if some projects are smaller and you don't want a big table because the table might get in the way of a small bag or something like that, so then sometimes you just want the plain machine itself with the free arm cap on, so that it's just a flat bed, but just the size of the machine. So that's the configuration I'm showing the B68 on. So to sum up the B60 series, it's more basically. You have automatic air threading of your loopers. That is the #1 intimidating factor when people get their first overlocker, right? The needles are pretty straightforward. It's almost like a sewing machine. But the loopers is where people think it's more intimidating. And this is super easy because it's taken care of for you. They all have a free arm. They have the free arm system. And this is the cherry on top. This is borrowed from Bernina technology. It's a patented Bernina feature, micro thread control. When you use an overlocker, you use the fabric cutter, the knife. That is the coarse adjustment. And then you form your stitch on the edge of that. But if you use a micro thread control, that's a fine tuning. So if you're going from 2 to 4 layers, when you do a cuff, for instance, and you attach it, you may, on the free arm, right? You may need to allow a little more thread because your fabric thickness just went up a little bit. You can just tweak your stitch the way it was, add a little more thread by just tweaking that little micro thread control. It's a tiny little lever, you just adjust it and you can now get perfect stitches no matter what. And the work surfaces are extra large. So everything from the B40 series has been stepped up. Features, convenience, and workspace, okay? So that is the last machine for today. Now, a machine is nothing without its accessories. I have on the Bernina side, I've came up with a golden rule of the presser foot, right? At the stitching point, it's not your loving hands that govern the fabric on any machine, regardless of type. It's the presser foot. There's presser feet and accessories for all the bernette segments. So having the right foot will make sure that you get the right results. So here's just a sampling of all the different presser feet set available. Now, everything in those sets is available in singles. So each foot is available separately, but for a much better value, you can outfit your machine with a whole wardrobe of shoes. You can get a whole set of feet at once. There are new feet and new accessories coming out all the time. You may notice on the slide that there are different colors to the different packages. So basically on the top left, you see the blue, the 3335 Bernettes have a blue theme on the box and on the whole, all the marketing materials. So you can quickly, when you go to the store, by color coding, you can find the accessories that match your machine. The B5 series was the second one. The 37, 38 were the red ones. The 70 series has a teal theme, and then the yellow is for the 40s and 60 series. And there's new stuff coming out all the time. We just released a whole batch of presser feet for the B5 series, for instance, between now and Christmas. So you are sure to get the right accessories to get your projects done to the best. It is not because you bought what we call a value machine in the value segment of the market that you should be limited in what you can do. And again, that is core to what is the mission for Bernette. And Bernette spells value. It is solid performance. It is also from basic to premium feature. You have the whole range available to you, and it's all at affordable prices within this segment. So if you need more information, if a model number caught your attention today and you want to check it out, you can go to bernette.com, and the little black band that you see, the menu you see below there, I borrowed right from the website, where there's a little bit about why the brand means something. And then the models available, the accessories will, you can go by model as well. And then there's even sewing projects that are done on Bernettes, and there's a store locator if you need to find a store near you. So let's go to Facecam. We'll go to questions in a bit. Now, I talked about Bernette today. There's a little story to the name Bernette. I could have said it at the beginning, but let me do it now. The current chairman of Bernina, his mother, who was chairwoman of the company before him, her name was Odette Ulche-Gegauf. So when it was time, the current chairman was in charge of shepherding the Bernette brand, to put it on the marketplace. So he decided to take Bernina and Odette and put them together, and that's how the name Bernette came to be. And actually, the et ending is often a diminutive in English, and since this is the junior brand of Bernina, it's fitting that way as well. So Bernette is Bernina at heart, if you want, like the quality, the obsession with quality and performance is there, but it is made into hardware that is affordable in the mass market. If you want, it's more accessible. And when I was a grad student, I wish I could have had access to machines like the Bernette. The first 3 years of my sewing would have been much better. My mother, when she saw a garment that I made after I got my first good sewing machine, she did what people who sew do. She flipped it wrong side out, and she looked at how it was made and all that, and she told me, your sewing has improved. She had seen my first proud creations on the plunker, remember? And I told her, I said, my machine has improved. I noticed right away that with a decent machine, it does not have to be the top of the line, but with a good performing machine, your results are better and your technique improves automatically. So because you do more with it. So that is the story of Bernette. Make quality machines, useful features, essential features, accessible to just about anyone. So you owe it to yourself to check it out. If you know somebody who's learning to sew, grandchildren, kids, a lot of stores will have kids camps in the summer. They will often do this on Bernette because it's the perfect machine for that context. So let's go to questions if we have any.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining us today. Janice might be thinking about Christmas because she asked, would the Bernette Academy be a good machine for my 9-year-old granddaughter?
Oh, well, the answer is yes, yes, and yes. Actually, one of our colleagues here has a 6-year-old daughter, and he was looking for a machine. His wife wanted to sew, and his daughter was going to learn. And all the colleagues here at Bernina, and we're all Bernina heads, right? we all said, oh, Academy, B5 Academy. It's a runaway success with his wife. Even the dog has clothes now, and his daughter. And actually, it's been a runaway success nationwide. I have a soft spot for the B5 Academy. It is an extreme value. That machine kind of stands out for what it is, especially for the value. And remember, it's on sale between now and Christmas, so you may want to jump on that. It is really, really, and that slow speed for that little girl will be a helper when she learns. And then when she's a teenager, she'll probably want to crank it up to the full speed. So yeah, it's great, great machine. I cannot recommend it more, actually.
Okay, Susie says, thank you for a great webinar. We can take any last minute questions if anybody wants to know anything about Bernette.
Actually, there's one question we got ahead, so I'm going to touch on it here. We get a lot of asked a lot. What's the difference between a Bernette and a Bernina? Okay, I like to use a Swiss watch approach, right? So Bernette is made for Bernina, so that we can have it made with hardware that's more accessible price-wise. But eventually, when you get to the high end, the 70 series, we're now able to put Bernina features. And you saw that 70 series, even the hardware layout is made for Bernina, not by Bernina. And it has a drop-in bobbin. There's differences there. But the layout supports the Bernina interface across the board, from the knobs to the screen to all the controls. So Berninas are built to a higher grade. And when you pick one up, it's obvious they're heavy, right? And so it's like a Swiss watch, a fine crafted Swiss watch. You can't find that under $100, right? So they're built to a higher grade. I would argue Berninas are built to the highest grade of any kind of sewing machine brand in the world. It is, and you pay a premium price for a premium machine. That does not take anything away from Bernette. Bernettes compete with the rest of the market, so they have to be competitive price-wise, feature-wise. And because they're made for Bernina, there is this insistence on quality and delivering the performance. So to me, Bernette is the sweet spot for most of us. I was that guy. I was a grad student. And remember the first slide for all your ideas? It's not because you're a grad student on $10,000 a year back then that you don't have ideas. You don't have a wallet as big, but you have the ideas. So Bernette today affords you those ideas and their execution. And actually I've challenged myself. One of my next big projects will be done on the Bernettes, just for the fun of it, because I like to play with the machines anyway. But I will actually go back to my roots and literally go back to what I wish I'd had when I started. So Bernette is really the affordability factor with the top features, quality features, where Berninas are built to a higher grade, right? You have the jumbo bobbins, you have the greater materials inside the machine. It's just they're heavier, they perform, they're like really, really, high end in that respect. But there's nothing wrong at either end of that scheme. You just find the price and the features you need, and Bernette covers a wide range of territory there. So make sure you check it out. And it's perfect for somebody who's learning to sew. You don't want to break the bank, right? And you still want quality. So that's there. And if as a companion machine, as I talked about the overlockers, the companion machines are, the Bernette makes that more affordable, so that you don't have to pay thousands. You can pay hundreds, like for a basic overlocker. You can stay more in the hundreds range if you want. So Bernette is really the way to go there. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, we have a question comment. Carlene wants to know, how would you use the online learning for Bernina when you own a Bernette? All the recordings have focused on Bernina, but nothing to assist with Bernette and Bernette feet accessories.
Okay, two things. We're going to make Maggie happy now. We have, a lot of what we put out is on bernina.com, right? So that is using Bernina machines. And also on Instagram, we do stuff with, I do press fit videos. I'm the foot guy, right? So we do this with Bernina. But on the bernette.com website, there are projects there, so you can start there. And if it says a straight stitch, on all the Bernettes, you can move the straight stitch. So if they say needle positions, you can actually play with that. So you can actually just reproduce that stuff. If it's decorative stitches, then it's never the same from machine to machine, even within a brand. So then you may have to play with what you do. But a basic project, you can pretty much do the same thing on your machine. Number one thing is that when you buy a Bernette, the store can give you your orientation class, and make sure you understand, your machine, where things are at. best investment into your value. Then you can go and do the projects along the way. So check out bernette.com, and also wealso.com. Wealso.com has a lot of projects. And for instance, I did a mending series, and I did mending a duvet cover. There was a big tear on a duvet cover. I did this on the Bernette. It was on the 77, but you can do this on the Bernette. It's a sewing machine. So if it's a sewing applications, you can actually do that as well. And then check out Bernette USA, one word, Bernette USA on Instagram. And I believe on Facebook as well, right? So you can get a more relevant or more pertinent context that is targeted or specific to Bernettes that way. You have resources available. But we also is better than bernina.com for project ideas, because that's the mission of the blog. So make sure you check out wealso.com.
Okay, I think that's all of our questions today. Thank you everybody for joining us. And the recording will be available next week online in case you want to reference anything about Bernette and our wonderful line of machines. Thank you, Sylvain, so much today for your presentation.
My pleasure.